220% tariff. Wider bilateral trade will be discussed. It's notable, incidentally, that Donald Trump complains about NAFTA, and yet the US has a $12.5 billion goods and services trade surplus with Canada. So it's in their interests. And they will also discuss the ongoing dispute over Canadian softwood lumber. President Trump has imposed extra tariffs of up to 24% on softwood.
Well, let's cross to Ottawa and talk to Roland Paris, a former senior advisor to Prime Minister Trudeau. Thank you very much for joining me. In the last few minutes, President Trump has suggested that NAFTA could exist without Mexico. Does Canada think it can?
I think Canada's preference is to maintain a trilateral NAFTA with Mexico. We already have a largely integrated North American economy. I think Canada's preference would be to move in that direction. Of course, if the United States is going to blow up NAFTA, then Canada's immediate interest is to maintain its close trading relationship with the United States. But we're not there yet, and Donald Trump has said a lot of things about a lot of things.
Well, he also said that we'll see when asked if NAFTA is dead. Usually people get fired when he says that. How worried are you that NAFTA can survive?
I think that, he has been saying that he intended to cancel NAFTA since he was a candidate. And he, about 100 days into his presidency, mused about canceling it right there and then, and decided quite publicly and theatrically not to do so at the time. So it's always difficult to know with Donald Trump which of his comments are meant for effect and which he genuinely believes. But this is core interest for Canada. This is central economic interest. So I think that the Canadian government is taking this extremely seriously right now.
Roland, obviously he's going to talk about Bombardier, and I guess the British Prime Minister will be watching what the outcome of that is. One of the questions he might ask the President is why is he so interested in state subsidies that are given to Bombardier and not interested in state subsidies that are given to Airbus or to Boeing? Yeah.
This is a very good point. And of course, Boeing is one of the largest recipients of taxpayer subsidies in the United States. So it is the irony and hypocrisy are not lost on those of us in Canada when Boeing is using U.S. Trade regulations in effect as a commercial weapon. But I think that, this is just one element in a trade relationship between Canada and the United States, which is entering a period of greater tension and uncertainty. But it's really the focus, I think, of our Prime Minister's attention will be on those NAFTA discussions. Some U.S. negotiators have been floating ideas that would just be total non-starters for Canada and Mexico. The idea, for example, of having a sunset clause in NAFTA that would effectively automatically terminate the agreement unless there was an endorsement after 5 years by all three parties. That's a time bomb in a trade agreement. We'd never agree to that. Other elements, including getting rid of a dispute settlement system that Canada relies on to have a kind of fair adjudication of these trade measures. So even the head of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which is a very strongly Republican-leaning organization, came out just recently and said these proposals, these would destroy NAFTA. And I'm sure that that's what the Prime Minister is telling Donald Trump in Washington.
OK. Roland Paris there in Ottawa. Thanks very much for your thoughts. Well, in just a few hours, President Trump will be heading off from that meeting to Pennsylvania, pushing ahead on one of his key campaign promises, tax cuts. The state helped deliver the White House for Mr. Trump, and now he's going back to stress the need for financial reform.
But could the recent spats with members of his own party hurt the president's chances of getting his